Hello, Commander.
Hello everyone, my name is Ghost, and today I wanted to make just kind of a quick video as I was playing Deep Rock Galactic yesterday, and I came across this for, I guess it was kind of the very first time in which you could almost call it metagaming. You can, call it as you like, but pretty much the reason why I wanted to make this video was notice something, and I'm assuming it's probably something that, has been talked about, but I don't know if there's ever really been any way to fix it, if you will. So came up with, a couple points that I wanted to talk about, and then some possible ways to fix the solution. And then I have the footage in the background of kind of, what's going on and why I chose to make the video. So, excuse me. So the biggest thing and the whole point that I really wanted to make this video was for this here's the big takeaway of it, really. Metagaming in Deep Rock Galactic, it's not wrong, but it's not fun. Essentially, that's the whole big, the big calzone, if you will. It's when you look at it, if there was like $300 on the line, if there was something, serious, you got to do what you got to do to win, especially when it comes to some of those overclocks that you really want or some of the minerals you really need. You're gonna do whatever you can do to win. The two big things I really wanted to talk about. The first one is with the digger in egg collections, being able to basically just dig straight to the eggs. It's not. Again, you're using the digger how you're supposed to. He digs. It's in the name, But I don't think it's really how you're supposed to use them, And a lot of times you'll hear people bring up the counter argument of bunkering and how, technically speaking, the digger is doing exactly what the digger is doing. He's building a bunker, which in its own self is kind of metagaming in Deep Rock Galactic. And I do agree with you. To an extent, bunkers are also metagaming. And should have their own pluses and minuses for how the glyphids and all the wonderful bugs on Hawks handle themselves. I would almost my point to bunkering versus digging straight to the eggs, collecting them, and then just kind of having the engineer build platforms behind the digger as the team goes about collecting everything is, at least with the bunkering, not only are you still kind of interacting with the environment, you're still playing the game. It's not just let's go collect these 6 eggs, we're going to completely ignore the entirety of the map, and we'll just get out, in no time flat, which is actually ironic because in the footage you're seeing, I think it took us like 39 something. I don't know, I'll post a screenshot or something like that. And ironically, when I did the run with a couple of friends of mine, we got it done in like 35:11, which I know someone's probably scoffing on the internet, going, I got it done in 25:12. Ghost, you're so bad. So the digger is such a highly important part of the team, but I feel like there needs to be a way to encourage players, because that's the big thing. The game needs to be designed so that you're encouraging players to be interacting with the environment instead of literally just digging tunnels through the walls. And so this is the suggestion, or I don't know, the hot fix, if you will, is that I came up with it, and hopefully it shouldn't be too difficult, was one of two ways. So the first one was when you collect the egg and you hear the giant, done MP4. The actual location where the egg is pulled, those vines and stuff, secrete like a obnoxious cloud, essentially. And it's, if you were digging, in the cavern like you're supposed to, it'll expand, but then it stops after, I don't know, 3 or 4 different meters after pulling the egg. So essentially, you pull the egg, the organic material that is around the egg basically dissipates or starts to erode, and eventually forces the dwarves away from where the egg was pulled, because now that egg is gone. This, inside the tunnels, inside the cave system, doesn't really affect the dwarves a whole lot, because they can still go onto the other side of the cavern, or just kind of go up and down the tunnels as they need to avoid the toxic gas. if they're stuck inside this very small, compact digger tunnel, the noxious cloud continues to expand as long as the organic material is still present or is still effectively still deteriorating. So essentially, you pull the egg, and then the organic material begins to secrete these spores, and it continues to secrete the spores as long as the organic material is still there. So you could technically detonate the one site, but you'd have to pull down and resupply every 2 eggs, which isn't, I don't think it's enough fuel for the digger to mine to all the different locations, detonate all of them, and still avoid kind of metagaming the idea. Then the other option, or the other idea, if you will, was when the egg is pulled and it makes the giant, angry whale noise, I guess. I don't really know what the noise is. You could even pull this from the dense biozone, best biozone, actually. Spikes would essentially, so you pull the egg, the organic material freaks out, and then begins to shoot spikes along the sides of the walls. This, in turn, whenever it connects to a new set of spikes, creates that little, spike pin cushion thing that actively, bursts out the spikes. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know how to properly implement it. But it's kind of the same thing as the noxious gas. As long it'll shoot out into a giant circle pattern, probably again 3 to 4 meters around where the egg was collected. So the dwarves inside the cavern, all they have to do is just back up. However, if you're inside a small narrow corridor and these erupt because they're connecting or they interact with each other. As they kind of spiral around the small tunnel, they in turn chain react to continue building more and more spines inside the tunnel. I don't know, maybe it's like a wrapping kind of thing, like a tendril wraps around the outside of it begins to kind of build around the wall. And so if you're on the inside of the cavern, it's only going to go, a meter or two, and then it's going to stop. And you'll still have to be careful of the spikes because they're on the wall. But as long as you kind of avoid it, you're fine. If you're inside a small confined tunnel, though, every time it wraps and connects to itself, it continues to chain the deeper you go in. Essentially, it doesn't stop players from doing it, but it makes it so that doing it in such a way is really dangerous and kind of, it's not, you're not playing the game as meta as you could be playing it. You could just literally, instead of having to deal with all these spikes or spores attacking you, now all you have to do is just play the game. Crazy idea, right? I guess one way of addressing the problem, I know there's a few other things that some other miners have probably recognized, and I'd be more than happy to talk about those in another video or something if this is, if people actually like these kind of things. But another issue that I've kind of noticed, and to be fair, I will raise my hand and say I'm also responsible for this, because honestly, Has 5 and you're stuck in a small little area having to protect either a black box or one of those nav boxes, it is brutal. I mean, it's not impossible to handle a Has 5 with 4 dwarves in a small area. It's not impossible. It's doable. It's just very, 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 very difficult because, surprise, it's Has 5. So what myself, again, because I am part of the problem for this one, and a lot of other miners have done, is they'll actually mine out underneath the black box or the nav box and essentially make a mini bunker underneath it, but still inside the circle. So this allows for players to essentially trigger the swarm that's going to come. They hide underneath, or in some cases, if it's close enough to a parallel wall, they'll mine out the wall behind it, but still leave the wall in front. So that way, again, it still forces the glyphids to not really be able to interact, and just wait out the timer. Again, it completely metagames and negates the challenge of it. I'm going to try and say that we try and bunker inside of the circle, but again, it's such a small circle. It's really difficult to do that. My suggestion, because again, I'm such a pro gamer, is it's actually I hope it's an easy fix. Get rid of the circle effect. Make it so that you, well, first off, I would almost suggest you either double or at least increase the area with which dwarves can be securing the black box or the nav box. That way, it allows for a little bit more mobility, you know. Because the biggest thing is, and this happens to me a lot, like a lot. You'll just be sitting there minding your own dwarven business, hating elves because they eat salads and drink water like a bunch of hippies. And next thing you know, here comes like 5 or 6 little, you know, oh goodness, what's the correct word? They're not detonators, but I call them boomers. You know, they run up to you, they explode. Sometimes they're radioactive, sometimes they're fire. And then next thing you know, you have 2 or 3 waves of that, and your entire floor is either radioactive or looks like magnetic Swiss cheese. And it's kind of tough. You know, it's really difficult. Your gunner is always going to be on a very, I think it's like a 40-second timer for those shields. So it's really down to the gunner to kind of make that hot choice and figure out when they can efficiently protect the team. But if you've got 3 or 4, you know, having a Praetorian guard spawn when you're trying to defend that, you want to talk about stress. Having a detonator spawn when you're trying to defend that thing, you want to talk about stress. You know, and then on top of that, you have very limited mobility because of the circle. It's tough. It's really, 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 really tough. But that's, again, it's Has 5. I understand it's the part of the challenge and it's part of the fun. Again, my suggestion, I don't want to say make it because that makes it sound like I'm making an excuse. Encourage players to engage with the Glyphids and the Praetorians and God, the Menaces. Ugh. You know, engage with that instead of just hiding behind a wall, digging underneath, you know, things like that. It just kind of, it's you're not playing the game wrong, but you're not having fun playing the game. You're playing the game as optimally as you can, which is what you should be doing, but you're not really enjoying killing a bunch of space bugs as dwarves with giant beards drinking ale in space caves for fun. You're playing the game to win. Again, just to kind of recap what I think would be the correct or a good way to kind of hotfix is, first off, to get rid of the circle, get rid of the bubble effect that the boxes spawn. This not only, so essentially if you think of like a nice flat surface, when the box spawns, there's that circle. It goes up and over the box and then also goes down and below the box. Remove it so that as long as the area or the circle is interacting with the ground, it is now not going to go underneath it. It stops at the ground level, so you only have that kind of half dome effect on your boxes. Next would be to just, I don't know if the correct word would be to slightly expand it or make the area a little bit larger. Again, still interacting with the wall features or the floor features. As long as it's touching the ground, it does not continue to expand. That way, again, it gives everyone a little bit more wiggle room. Because nothing, and I seriously mean nothing, is more difficult than having your gunner just got grabbed by a grabber, your engineer is currently dealing with all of the Glyphids, your gunner is dealing with the Praetorians and the detonator that's making his way there, and the scout is just trying to do his scouting best and snipe some of the spitters and web slingers and the acid boys and everything else that's, you know, attacking you. And then on top of that, you're pretty much sitting buddy-buddy with everybody. So if one person goes down or if someone tries to shoot an AoE by accident and misses, everybody gets hit. There's better ways to make the game just a little bit more enjoyable for not only the professional players, or not professional, but the very good players, you know, the 3 gold stars, as well as the 3 bronze stars and the silver boys. Just a few, you know, food for thoughts. Let me know what you guys think, and thank you for sticking around and kind of watching the video. I know it's not exactly the most heavily edited, or it's a super elaborate and complex video, but you know, I thought I'd just kind of give you all some food for thought and hopefully create some positive discussion about this. This is kind of one of those things that, you know, if you're speedrunning it, I would say that, you know, again, this kind of falls back to the age-old belief of, if there's money on the line, if there's something intrinsically of value that you can get for winning the game in the fastest possible time, regardless, you know, like an any percent in speedrun, you are going to do everything you can to win the game. However, for the rest of the populace that just want to have fun and enjoy the challenge of the game, I would almost say that it does detract from some of the fun, just because you're not really playing Deep Rock Galactic at that point. You're really just going for the speedrun. If that's what you want to do, hey, more power to you. But for the rest of us, I don't know. I don't want my lobbies to be filled with diggers that are expected to just mine straight to the eggs or build a bunker underneath the black boxes because that's their job now, is to be the, be the guy that just the meta maker. Let everyone enjoy their different strengths and weaknesses as the gunner, the engineer, the scout, and the digger, and have fun with it. So, all rants aside, thank you to everyone that was here for this. Sorry that it was such a lengthy and long and obnoxious rant, but thank you for all, and I hope you guys have a good day, good afternoon, good night, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.